The next upcoming entry to the Halo series, Halo Infinite, sees Master Chief battling it out with the previously seen but relatively unknown faction known as the Banished. Long-term fans of the Halo series will recognise the Banished as the antagonistic faction seen in the 2017 Halo Wars 2. However, others may be looking upon these red-clad aliens, thinking,
Remember,
The Covenant?
he's back!
In red form.
As such, this video will cover the lore and history of the Banished previous to their appearance in Halo Infinite. The Banished are a mercenary organisation made up primarily of Drohani, known to us as brutes, and have been led since their formation by the War Master, Atriox. Formed a decade before the events of Halo 2, the Banished began as a response to Atriox's lack of faith and contempt for the Covenant hierarchs. Born into the Covenant, Atriox served within its military in their war against humanity, and his tenacity and strength led him to become a living legend among the Covenant, especially among other brutes. However, he grew disillusioned with the Prophets and their promise of the Great Journey, especially after seeing countless members of his own clan killed in battle in the name of the religion. The Prophets, fearing Atriox's rise to power and hearing rumours of his lack of faith, conspired to have him framed and executed. Atriox, sensing this pretext for what it was, murdered the would-be executioner with his own sword, and inspired his fellow brutes to similar acts of violence against the Sanghali, known to us as the Elites. Their devotion to the Covenant was no more, and the Banished were born. In the beginning, the Banished were essentially space pirates, and took to conducting stealthy raids against the Covenant in order to survive. With every strike, they gained further resources, weaponry, vehicles, and ships, and with every victory, rallied new members to their cause. It was stated that at the height of the Covenant's power, they had two targets, humanity and Atriox. They nearly wiped out the humans, but they never came close to stopping the Banished. However, the Banished fortunes only truly began to turn at the outset of the Great Schism, and the chaos caused by the Covenant Civil War. The Great Schism had the immediate effect of turning attention away from Atriox and the Banished. Whilst the Covenant contended with humanity, the Flood, and the rebel forces, the Banished were able to consolidate their power and conduct more brazen raids on the Covenant. The climax of the Great Schism and the subsequent end of the war between humanity and the Covenant were the true catalysts to the Banished rise to power. Following the Covenant's disintegration, many former members were lost and disorientated, their lives wasted in service of a lie perpetrated by the Prophets. They sought new meaning in a galaxy that had stripped away all that they held to be true. Some races joined new federations, such as the Swords of Sanghelios, while others disintegrated into feuding splinter factions. Some groups simply sought to wage genocide against the other races they felt had caused the current state of the galaxy. The Banished differed from these emerging groups as they had already been in operation for at least a decade. With an anchor in the past and a vision for the future, they provided a unique opportunity that the other organizations lacked. Firstly, they disregard the many feuds between races as petty and without reward, and provided an opportunity for members of any race to join their organization. Atriox himself even has no animosity towards humanity, and many human criminal organizations have been stated to be aligned with the Banished. While the brutes do occupy most of the higher ranks, the Banished is technically a meritocracy, as elites have been known to fill high-ranking leadership roles. Secondly, the Banished provide its recruits with the opportunity to fight and be rewarded for their own desire. Atriox states that, "We share a vision, one where the blood we spill and the treasures we plunder are in the name of our own free will, and nothing more." This makes the Banished an enticing option for many former Covenant members, who previously had been gang-pressed into fighting on behalf of the Hierarchs, and ultimately on behalf of a lie. The Banished numbers swelled with these new recruits, and they reached a new apex of power with the addition of the flagship Enduring Conviction. With their newfound power, they began to focus less on raiding and piracy, and more on expansion, growth, and conquest. The Banished's most notable escalation of conflict came from their assault on the UNSC forces stationed at the Ark in 2558. The occupation of the Ark signified a shift for the Banished, proclaiming their intent to occupy territory and project their power over the other forces in the galaxy. Atriox intended to utilize the foundry located within the Ark to build his own Halo rings, but was met with resistance from the UNSC forces who arrived from slipspace aboard the Spirit of Fire. The engagement between these factions is covered in the events of Halo Wars 2. The Spirit of Fire made first contact after a recon Spartan team were ambushed by Atriox himself, and a series of pitched battles unfolded, aimed at securing the Ark. The UNSC, although outgunned, secured key victories against the Banished, leading to the destruction of their enduring conviction, after causing the Ark's neutral Sentinel system to mark it as hostile and destroy it. Within the Ark, a Halo ring, Installation 09, had been newly created to replace the ring destroyed by Master Chief in the original Halo. The UNSC and the Banished fought for control over Installation 09, with the former intending to utilize the ring to contact reinforcements from Earth, while the latter sought to stop the UNSC reinforcements and occupy the ring before its firing mechanism was deactivated. The UNSC were ultimately successful in taking control, literally ejecting Banished troops from the ring's surface into outer space, and sent the ring with Alan Anders aboard towards the Milky Way galaxy to seek reinforcements. Installation 09 was unfortunately intercepted en route by one of Cortana's Guardians, although this is a story for another time. In the months following, battle continued to rage between the UNSC and the Banished. In the event seen in the Halo Wars 2 DLC, Awakening the Nightmare, Atriox commands his subordinates, brothers Pavium and Voridus, to conduct a scavenging mission. Seeking to gain an edge over the UNSC, he instructs them to scout the wreckage of Covenant ships left after the battle between humanity and the Covenant from the events of Halo 3. However, he explicitly commands them not to investigate the remnants of High Charity, the former Covenant homeworld/flagship that had become an infested hive for the Flood. The wreckage had been surrounded with a shield by the Ark Sentinel defense system and would be able to contain the infestation, as long as they weren't disturbed. Voridus, seeking glory and convinced the Flood had just been another lie of the Prophets, decided to disturb them. He deactivated the Sentinel drones and burnt a hole through the shield surrounding High Charity, sending his forces into the former Covenant capital. His brute soldiers were quickly infested by the Flood infection forms and turned on their former allies, leading thousands of parasites loose upon the Banished. The brothers set up a vigorous defense against the Flood, with Pavium holding the line above surface, while Voridus went underground to reactivate the Sentinel defense network he himself had just deactivated. They also sent word to Atriox and requested support to contain the infestation. Furious that his orders had been disobeyed, and having to concede ground to the UNSC in order to divert troops against the Flood, Atriox commanded the brothers to rectify the situation, or he'd kill them himself. The brothers realized that the Flood, showing intelligence and strategy, were being led by a Proto-Gravemind, which would eventually morph to a fully fledged Gravemind if it was not eliminated soon. With tactical ingenuity, heavy ordnance, and assistance from the Sentinel defense network, the brothers were able to eliminate the Proto-Gravemind before it became a threat to the survival of the Banished themselves. Their celebrations were short-lived following the arrival of an incensed but grudgingly impressed Atriox, who commanded the brothers to clean up the mess in return for their lives. The brothers surveyed the carnage, while Atriox returned to the front to continue the campaign against the UNSC stationed at the Ark. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the Banished are stated to have taken control of a new ring, Installation 07, also known as Zeta Halo, having wrested it from the control of the UNSC. These events are to be covered in the upcoming Halo Infinite, with the Banished led by War Chief Estrom. At the time of the video, no other information is visible about Estrom or the Banished. It seems evident that Estrom holds a personal animosity towards humanity itself, declaring that their entire race will burn, which differs from Atriox's personal ambivalence towards humans. His intent appears to be to utilize the ring to achieve this aim, but it is unknown if he is acting on behalf of Atriox, the Harbinger, or if he's on his own. In any case, this has been the history of the Banished so far. I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to providing more information on the faction after the release of Halo Infinite.